Okay, I have to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Have you ever had a full-blown debate in the shower?
Oh, absolutely.
You know the kind I mean.
Mm.
You're standing there, shampoo in your hair, and you are just absolutely destroying the opposition. Your logic is airtight, your metaphors are poetic, you are a genius.
Oh, the shower debate. I am undefeated in the shower. I have never, ever lost an argument in there.
Exactly. It is so crystal clear. But then, fast forward 2 hours, you walk into the actual meeting or the dinner party or wherever this conversation is supposed to happen. You open your mouth to deliver that same brilliant point, and what happens?
Total system failure.
It's a disaster. You're backtracking, you're saying every 3 words, you're getting lost in your own sentence. It's like the file got corrupted on the way out of your brain.
It is the classic brain genius, mouth idiot phenomenon, and it's, I think, universally painful.
It really is. And I think for most of us, that's where the insecurity sets in.
Yeah.
We look at people who speak in these perfect formatted paragraphs, and we just think,
They just have it.
yeah, they just have it. They won the genetic lottery. I'm just not a gifted speaker.
And that is the myth we're here to dismantle today. We're doing a deep dive into the habits of articulation based on some really compelling work by Ayushi Thakkar. And if you take nothing else away, take this. Articulation is not a gene. It isn't magic. It is a set of very specific, very practiced habits.
So if it's not magic, what is it? Because it sure feels like magic when you watch someone do it well.
At its core, articulation is a translation mechanism. Think about how your brain actually works. Internal thinking is. It's lightning fast. It's non-linear.
Right. It's all happening at once.
Exactly. It jumps from an image to a feeling to a memory. It's this chaotic cloud of associations. But speech is linear. It's a narrow tube. You have to take that massive swirling cloud of thought and force it through that tube, one word at a time, in a specific sequence.
So the stuttering, the ums, the confusion, that's not a lack of intelligence. That's just a formatting error.
It's a bottleneck problem. You're trying to shove a cloud through a tube without organizing it first. The mission of this deep dive is to look at 7 specific habits that can, well, widen that tube and streamline the data transfer.
I love that visualization, widening the tube. Okay, let's get into it. We've got 7 habits broken down into 3 categories: foundation, input, and performance. Let's start with the foundation. And this first habit, it actually surprised me because it has nothing to do with speaking.
Right. The foundation of better speaking is actually writing.
This is the rough draft concept.
It is. Thakkar makes this great point. You would never dream of publishing the first draft of a book, right? You know it's going to be messy and full of holes. But every single day, we try to publish the first draft of our thoughts by speaking them immediately.
And then we're surprised when it requires editing in real time.
Exactly. So the first habit is the notes app strategy. And this is specifically for those high-stakes moments: a difficult feedback session, a project update, a pitch.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here, though. I'm in a fast-paced environment. I don't always have time to sit down and write a script before I answer a question in a meeting.
And you shouldn't. That's a crucial distinction. If you write a full script, you are absolutely going to sound robotic. This is not about scripting. It's about bullet points. It's about structure.
So how does it work practically?
Let's say you have to explain a delay to a client. Before you hop on that Zoom call, you take literally 90 seconds. You open your phone and you type out your 3 main pillars. Just the headers, maybe the specific issue, the fix we're implementing, and the new timeline.
That seems almost too simple to be a habit.
It feels simple, but it does something profound to your brain. It forces you to spot the logic gaps.
Logic gaps.
Yeah. In your head, idea A connects to idea B because you have all the context, you lived it. But when you type it out, you might realize, wait a minute, I'm jumping from the server crash to we need more budget without explaining the middle step. Writing exposes that missing link.
I see. So it's a stress test. You're debugging your own code before you run the program.
Precisely. And once you see the flow visually on a screen, you don't have to waste mental energy remembering where you're going while you're speaking. You can just focus on the delivery itself.
That makes a ton of sense for specific events. But Thakkar also talks about a more long-term habit involving writing, journaling.
Yes. And I know when I say journaling, half our listeners probably roll their eyes and think about, Dear Diary, today I felt sad.
It does have that reputation, a little bit.
But in this context, think of journaling as going to the gym. It's translation practice.
the gym for your articulation muscles.
If articulation is the skill of translating abstract thoughts into linear words, you need to strengthen that neural pathway. Thakur suggests doing this daily morning pages, reflections on what you read, whatever works. You're just training your brain to retrieve words and organize syntax faster.
It's like learning a foreign language, isn't it? If I learn Spanish, but I never speak it or write it, and then 5 years later I try to order dinner in Madrid, I'm going to struggle badly.
That is the perfect analogy. If you write every day, you are shrinking the lag time between having a thought and finding the right word for it. You're clearing the brush on that path. So when you're in a meeting and need to articulate something on the fly, the path is already there. You've traveled it 1,000 times in your journal.
That's really compelling. So writing isn't just about the record, it's about the process of export. Okay, let's pivot. Second category, input habits. We've talked about how we get ideas out, but Thakur suggests we're probably bringing ideas in consuming information pretty inefficiently.
Inefficiently is a polite way to put it.
Yeah.
Most of us read like, we eat fast food, we just want the calories. We scan for the bold text, we look for the key takeaways box, we get the gist, and we move on.
I am absolutely guilty of this. I call it efficiency, but really I'm just skimming.
And that's fine for data collection. If you just need the numbers, scan away. But scanning does nothing for your articulation. The habit here is reading with attention. Or maybe better, reading for architecture.
Reading for architecture, what do you mean?
Think about it. When you read something that makes you go, oh, wow, I finally get it, what do you usually do? You just nod and you keep reading.
Right. I take the knowledge and I run with it.
Thakur says, stop. When you have that moment of clarity, you need to pause and ask yourself, why did I get it just then? How did the author build that bridge for me?
So you're reverse engineering the explanation.
Exactly. You're looking at the blueprints. Did they use a specific analogy? Did they start with a counterintuitive fact to grab your attention? Did they break a big, scary concept into 3 small, friendly buckets?
You're treating the content not just as information, but as a master class in communication.
Yes. And if you do this enough, you start to internalize those structures. You start to recognize what coherence feels like. So the next time you have to explain a project, you don't just ramble. You subconsciously pull up that blueprint. You say, okay, I need to start with the what, then the so what, then the now what.
Because you've seen it work before.
That leads us right into the next input habit, which is about vocabulary. And I have to say, this is where I think a lot of people go very wrong. They think being articulate means using big, fancy words.
The swallowed a thesaurus approach.
Exactly. The person who uses utilize instead of use or ameliorate instead of fix, just to sound smart.
And they usually end up sounding insecure. Thakur is very firm on this. Do not use word of the day apps. Do not memorize lists of GRE words.
Why not? Isn't a bigger vocabulary just better? Only if it's active vocabulary. Here's the trap. If you memorize a word from a list, it sits in your passive vocabulary. You recognize it if you see it, but you don't really know its emotional weight. You don't know the proper context. So when you try to use it in conversation, it just sounds clunky. It's like wearing a suit that doesn't fit right.
How do we build active vocabulary then without the lists?
Through contextual anchors. You learn words by seeing them in the wild. If you're reading a great novel or a high-quality article and you see a word used perfectly, your brain tags it. It says, ah, this is the situation where this word lives.
You get the flavor, not just the definition.
Exactly. It becomes organic. When you speak, that word will bubble up naturally because your brain associates it with the context you're in. You're not searching for a fancy word. You're searching for the precise word, and it just happens to be there.
So read widely, pay attention to the structure, and let the vocabulary soak in naturally. Don't force it.
Precision beats pretension every single time.
Okay, so we've prepped our rough draft, we've trained in the journal, we've upgraded our inputs. Now we are in the room. It is showtime. Let's talk about the performance habits. And the first one, honestly, I think this is the hardest one to actually do. The pause.
The terrifying sound of silence.
It really is fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
We fill all that space with, because we are afraid of the void.
We're terrified of losing the floor. There's this deep-seated anxiety that if I stop talking for even 1 second, someone else will jump in, or worse, people will think I've forgotten what I was saying. So we emit what Thakur calls verbal static.
So it's a keep alive signal.
It's a loading bar, but it just kills your authority. Listen to the difference.
I think we should probably go with option B. because, it's cheaper.
Not very inspiring.
Now compare that to this. I think we should go with option B. It's cheaper.
The difference is night and day. The second one sounds like a leader. The first one sounds like a vague suggestion. But here's the trick, and this is why it's so hard. To you, the speaker, that pause felt like an eternity. You were screaming inside, "Say something, it's too quiet, they're judging me." But to the listener,
It just felt like confidence.
it felt like thoughtfulness. It's the relativity of time. And pauses do something else that's critical. They give the listener's brain a chance to catch up.
Right, because if I'm blasting information at 100 miles per hour, their buffer gets full.
Exactly. The pause is the white space that lets the text breathe. It lets the point actually sink in. If you want to be understood, you have to give people time to understand you.
So the actionable habit here is to catch yourself. When you feel the coming on, you just shut your mouth.
Literally close your lips, swallow. It will feel awkward. Do it anyway. Replace the filler with silence. Eventually, your brain learns that silence is safe.
That is going to take some real willpower.
Yeah.
But I can see the payoff. Okay, moving to the next habit. This one flips the script again. We usually think of articulation as speaking, but Thakar says a huge part of being articulate is actually how you listen.
This connects right back to the reading for architecture idea.
What?
When articulate people listen, they aren't just waiting for their turn to speak. They're doing something called listening for structure.
What does that look like? Are they taking notes on a pad?
Mental notes on the logic. They're tracking the thread. If you're telling me a story about your project, I'm not just listening to the details. I'm asking myself, okay, what's his main premise? What evidence is he using? How does this connect to what he said 5 minutes ago?
So you're mapping the conversation in real time.
You're maintaining a dynamic mental map. And this allows you to do something that makes you sound incredibly smart. The callback.
Oh, the callback, the classic move. To go back to what you said earlier about X.
Exactly. When you say, I want to tie this point about budget back to what Sarah said 10 minutes ago about the timeline, everyone in the room sits up. It shows you're holding the entire complexity of the discussion in your head at once. You're not just reacting, you are synthesizing.
And that invites a deeper level of conversation. You're asking questions like, how did you get from A to B? Instead of just, oh, I agree.
Right, you're asking for their roadmap. You're saying, show me your logic.
Okay.
That not only clarifies the topic for everyone, but it also teaches you more about how to structure your own thoughts. You're basically stealing their navigation system.
I love that phrase, stealing their navigation system. Okay, we are down to the final habit, habit number 7. And this one seems to be all about adaptability, calibrating complexity.
This is the hallmark of true mastery. There's that old saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Thacker takes this a step further. It isn't just about simplicity, it's about modular explanation.
Modular, like Lego blocks.
That is a great way to think about it. Imagine your knowledge of a topic is a big bucket of Lego bricks. A novice speaker just dumps the whole bucket on the table. They tell you everything they know in every detail right away. It's overwhelming.
The curse of knowledge. You just assume everyone cares as much as you do.
Whereas the articulate speaker selects the bricks. They look at their audience and say, okay, this is the CEO. She cares about the strategy. Brick.
So they build a small, simple model first.
Yes. And then they watch the reaction. This is the calibration loop. If the CEO looks bored, maybe you add a complexity brick to show you've done your homework. If the intern looks confused, you need to take a brick away and lay a foundation brick instead.
It's a dance. You're constantly adjusting the resolution of your image based on who's looking at it.
That's it. You aren't just reciting a speech. You are optimizing for the user. And that requires you to get out of your own head and just look at their face. Did that land? No. Okay, let me try a different analogy.
It sounds like the core theme running through all of this is actually empathy.
In a way, yes. Articulation isn't about showing off how smart you are. It's about respecting the other person's brain enough to package your ideas in a way they can actually open and use.
That is a beautiful way to put it. So let's recap this whole stack, because we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with the translation gap, that struggle to get the messy cloud of thought into linear tube of speech.
We bridged that gap with writing, using the Notes app to test logic, and journaling to build the translation muscle.
Then we optimized our inputs reading for structure, not just facts, and building an organic vocabulary through context.
And finally, we refined the performance replacing ums with powerful silence, listening for the thread, and calibrating our complexity to fit the room.
It really is a system. And what I appreciate about this is that none of it requires you to be born with a silver tongue. These are just reps.
They are reps, and
Yes.
that is the so what for today. If you feel like you aren't articulate, you don't need a personality transplant. You need a regimen. You need to start pausing. You need to start jotting down those bullet points.
And it's a slow burn, right? You're not going to wake up tomorrow sounding like Barack Obama.
No, you will not. But 6 months from now, if you stick to this, you will look back at a recording of yourself or read a transcript of a meeting, and you will see the difference. The static will be gone. The structure will be there. You'll sound like the person you feel like in your head.
And that is the entire goal, to close the gap between your internal genius and your external reality.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought that really struck me while we were prepping this. We often equate articulate with intelligent. We assume the person speaking the best has the best ideas. But if we accept Thacker's premise that articulation is just a translation skill, then that whole assumption just breaks down.
It does. The most articulate person in the room isn't necessarily the smartest. They're just the best at bridge building.
Exactly. So here's the question for you to mull over. What incredible world-changing idea is currently trapped in your head, stuck on the wrong side of that bridge? And are you willing to do the work, the boring daily work of these habits, to finally get it across to the rest of us? Because we probably need to hear it.
That's the challenge.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.